Entrepreneurially Thinking is a presentation of BioSTL and CET, Center for Emerging Technologies, with RareGem Productions, changing the way you view new ventures, including you on the pathway to success with your business in the St. Louis marketplace and beyond. Here's your hosts, Cheryl and Christy. Now let's get thinking entrepreneurially.
Welcome to the Entrepreneurially Thinking podcast. We're here to steer up your entrepreneurial mindset and create pathways for business success in the St. Louis marketplace and beyond. I'm Christy Maxfield.
And I'm Cheryl Watkins Moore. Christy is the guru over here at CET, working with entrepreneurs, helping them realize their goals through great programming that she supports through her Square One program.
And I get to play with Cheryl on a regular basis, BioSTL Inclusion Initiative, so that we can increase the number and type of people who are pursuing entrepreneurship in our community.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we're stepping out of our comfort zone and asking you to step out of your comfort zone and get you thinking about your business in an all new different way.
We want to take some of the constraints out of how you view your ventures and really engage in a conversation. Make sure that this is a normal part of your day, like it's a normal part of our day, and get the juices flowing. So we invite you to join the Entrepreneurially Thinking community with fellow entrepreneurs, experts, business owners, contributors on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and the social media platform of your choice. And today we're here to confirm, affirm, and exclaim that yes, you are an entrepreneur.
Yes, you are an entrepreneur.
If you've been sitting on the fence.
Hey, if you're second guessing or even feeling overwhelmed by the idea, we're going to address all of that today. And I think we've got a great program lined up. What do you think, Christy?
Oh, most definitely. We have two entrepreneurs from our community who can share with you their own story. And I'm really excited to get started. We're going to take a brief break and then bring it back to our guests.
Now here's Make It Happen with Keith Sales Pro.
According to leadership advisor Lee Colin, here's 4 things every leader should know. Number 1, the entrepreneur says the next deal is king, while the leader says the customer is king. 2, saying yes to one thing may mean saying no to something else. Measure what matters, then manage what you measure. 3, a blurred vision yields diffused efforts. And finally, 4, growth comes when you get off the treadmill of working in the business and step into the eagle's nest to work on the business. Today, remember, it can happen. It will happen. And together, we will make it happen.
Follow Keith Sales Pro on Facebook or Twitter at Keith Sales Pro, or visit his website at keithsalespro.com.
It can happen. It will happen. And together, we will make it happen.
How you doing? I'm Keith Turner with TurnGroup Technologies, and thinking entrepreneurially means solving problems for clients, plain and simple.
Welcome back to Entrepreneurially Thinking.
We are so excited, you guys, that you guys are out there listening. We have, I think, Christy, 2 great guests. So do you want to go ahead and introduce them?
Absolutely. I've had the pleasure of working with both of them. Seqwana Pryor from Prycor Technologies and Keith Turner from TurnGroup are here. We're going to start just Keith. You've been on this journey a little bit longer than some of the other folks in our community, and I just wanted to get a sense of the different kinds of companies you're doing, what brought you to this place, and what you can share with us about what you're doing.
So I'm Keith Turner. My core business is TurnGroup Technologies. Essentially what we did was we started off in 2002 as an IT infrastructure support company. What we evolved to was a web development company, and now what we are is a data modeling, data analysis company that uses websites and mobile apps to really help companies and get a better return on their revenue.
Wow.
So we work with companies in the area of business development, but we use technology. We use business related technologies to help them get better data to target their customers and blah, 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 blah. So yeah, that's what we do with TurnGroup. Also, I'm a children's book author. So H is for Hope books. I've written 3 books. H is for hygiene. H is for a healthy diet and what you should do in case of emergencies. So I'm a serial entrepreneur. I have an idea and I'm not smart enough not to act on every idea. So 2.5 years ago, I started a company called iChurch Phone Apps, and we developed a project and realized it wasn't scalable in how we did it. So we've done a pivot, and now it's called Better Volunteering. And iChurch Phone Apps got some awards locally from I-10 and T-Rex. But, ideas pop in my head and I try to pursue them. But my core business is TurnGroup Technologies, and our customers range from, the $100,000 company to the $1.3 billion company that we just lost because you can't always keep all your clients. But it's good being an entrepreneur. And the road to entrepreneurship has been a very unfocused, turbulent path, but it's been a blessing for sure. So,
well, great. Well, thank you for being here with us. And we're going to get back. I have a lot of things churning in my head to ask you about how you pivoted and the different type of companies that you started. But our next guest, Seqwana Pryor. Seqwana is new to our ecosystem. And Christy and I have had a great opportunity to work with Seqwana once she exited large corporation here in St. Louis. So, Seqwana, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us about your company?
Yes, thanks, Cheryl and Christy, for having me. Yes, as Cheryl just stated, I have been a corporate person or a corporate professional for the last 18 years. But back in January, I launched, along with my husband, Prycor Technologies. So I serve currently as the CEO and co-founder of Prycor Technologies, a startup where we're hoping to really set our mark in the innovation and engineering space. We've got a lot of exciting things on the horizon. We've been working more specifically in the last few weeks with one of our partners, SIUE, launching a food science and technology program for young future engineers, scientists, and entrepreneurs.
Exciting.
Yeah, it's really exciting. The core of what we hope to do is really have the opportunity as a woman-owned business to consult both to industry, but also to academia and partner in the community to really make a difference in this science and technology space.
Well, great. Thank you for joining us. Christy?
Well, you both have so much passion because I know that's what it takes to be an entrepreneur. And Keith, you mentioned that you're a serial entrepreneur. And did you ever start out thinking of yourself in that way, or has this been something you've grown into over time?
So it's interesting you say that. I was interviewed on a podcast that dealt with athletes that turned into entrepreneurs that do things in the community. And I was asked a similar question.
It wasn't as exciting as our podcast. I'm sure.
You know what? They were all excited. Yours is great. Theirs is great.
Serving the community everywhere we go.
Exactly. But it's funny because it wasn't until a couple years ago that I realized I started doing entrepreneurial things when I was a kid. My godbrother reminded me. So, we have a young man in here with us. He's probably about 14. He may have never heard of Michael Jackson, but when we were kids, Michael Jackson was popular. And so people wear Michael Jackson buttons, Prince buttons, what have you. And so I would get our Ebony magazine and I would cut the picture out and I would make my own buttons. And so my godbrother reminded me that, hey, you know what? You were doing entrepreneurial stuff because you were selling those for like $0.25, $1 when you were a kid. So, and on into college, I went to undergrad at Morehouse College and I did this illegal market in my room. I mean, I was an athlete. I was a football player.
You created a new market?
Yes.
It was actually called the black market.
Okay.
And what happened was at night that sign would go on the door. And if you needed, a 2-liter of Sunny Delight or some Hawaiian Punch. So anyway, all of these were entrepreneurial ventures.
So you were just another distributor, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was looking for somebody who saw an opportunity. Hey, can I create my own ecosystem to make my own capital, make my own cash? And so the entrepreneurship road, I never thought of myself as a serial entrepreneur, but I always thought that one day I would be some type of entrepreneur. And when I moved back to St. Louis, a good guy from Detroit showed me really how to begin to purchase property and do things like that. So as I worked for somebody else, as we kind of talked about before we start recording, as I worked for somebody else, I started to develop these business ideas and concepts and strategies and experiences. And, after that, it gave me an opportunity once I transitioned into the technology space and worked for two other companies in that technology space, ended up starting my company in 2002. So never did I think the entrepreneurial serial part would be there. I just wanted to at least take a leap of faith to be an entrepreneur and do my best to do that. So as I realized the main foundation and components of being an entrepreneur, then I was like, you know what? I got an idea. I need to move on. I got another idea. I need to, and as we talked about, I hate to say prior to this, sometimes you can take off more than you can handle. And so serial entrepreneur can be a blessing and a curse.
Yeah. But I like the way that you cataloged your ideas, you thought about them and, you acted on them, whether whether they worked or they didn't work, but it sounded like many of them worked. So Seqwana, how, it's interesting. I think, you coming from a long history, a long corporate background, how did you transition? What were your thoughts on how to get into this whole entrepreneurial game? Because I'm sure it had to be kind of like scary.
And you've shared that it kind of took you by surprise.
Yeah, this was I was a horrible Girl Scout. I could not sell anything. I come from a very traditional family where, 4 generations lived together. They all worked the same job. My mother was a teacher. She worked the same job, the same school for 40 years. So, this whole idea of doing your own thing and getting out of your comfort zone, which was my corporate experience, which had served me, in my opinion, very well.
And I think what's so interesting when you said that about corporate, we brought this up in one of our earlier shows. I don't know if it's an African American thing, but I know when I left corporate, I don't know if you experienced the same thing with your family looking at you cross-eyed to say, you left a good corporate job to do what?
Definitely.
Absolutely. I'm still trying to explain it to my grandmother, who I'm going to see here later on a flight as I'm going to meet my family later this weekend. But she
explain it to myself.
Yeah, absolutely. They have no idea what I'm doing, including my husband.
Of course.
Yeah, it just kind of happened. I mean, I had my corporate job. I had no idea 6 months ago or a year ago that I would be sitting and doing what I'm doing. There was no reason, no rhyme for me to be off on my own, launching anything. It was just kind of a little bit of fire that might have been ignited when I came to St. Louis and met Cheryl, that may have started to have me to think about these options, got engaged in the community, this entrepreneurial underground community here. I'm sitting looking out my window at the company that I work for, and I'm seeing all of these buildings kind of come up around me, and I'm just slowly but surely getting more intrigued, but still no real interest in leaving my very secure job. And then it just happened. So in January, it was just a lot of things just started to come together, and I just kind of pushed the button, and
here you are.
Here I am.
You're doing
Here
it.
I
and
am.
I think, Keith, you talked about this at one time. It's like stepping out on faith.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Before I started TurnGroup Technologies, I had to really determine what was keeping me from stepping out and leaving the job that I had to work completely in a company that I started. And I didn't think about the foundational business components. I mean, I figured I'd find clients. Of course, I've learned differently since then. There's a whole different way of creating a problem solution scenario when starting a business. But I thought, hey, I had a skill set and I could offer that skill set and I could create a business. And what I realized was the thing that kept me from starting the business most was I'm 27. I had a couple cars, I had a house, and if I had to take all of this stuff back, how far could I go back in order to sacrifice to make the business successful? Meaning, how much stuff could I get rid of in order to capitalize the business to make it successful?
And ramen noodles is cheap.
Hey, you know what?
But after a few cars, it's hard to downsize.
That's right.
You can get used to a lot of things and become accustomed to a lot of things that just aren't helpful for you. So really, it became an idea of how can I divorce myself from what people thought? And so it was if you step out and you create a business to the best of your ability and you fail, how will other people see you? And so when I realized that was my biggest challenge at the age of 27, I did a lot of praying, did a lot of talking to people who are entrepreneurs, who had left corporate jobs, who had left what was considered quote unquote stable jobs. And, and even family that I go to for everything. There's a family member that say, hey, look, I don't think you should do it.
Your first stakeholders, you've got to get them invested in it almost before you've got to get your customers invested in it.
Exactly. But it's your vision. And that's what entrepreneurs have to always realize is that people can tell you anything they want. If you prepare, it's your vision. God gave you that vision for a reason. Other people may not understand it because it's your vision. So no matter how you articulate it to other people, convey it, they might say, hey, I don't get it. And that's fine. If your model works for you, if you're solving a real problem, then you go after it.
But I think you said something that I think that's really critical because Christy and I always talk about this. Failure is not the end. It actually can be the beginning of something else different.
And I think if you frame it as an experiment, actually, I know if you frame it as an experiment, then you take some of the fear out of the equation and you get to really learn from the experience.
Yeah, but let's be real about it. Failure means not just, what do people think about me, but failure means, hey, I might lose all the capital that I saved up in life. I'm leaving a job and leaving some other things that have created an income that is a good income, and so for your perspective. And so let's not minimize it or sugarcoat it. It is a serious thing. And if you fail, it's more than just saying, hey, look, I failed. I got a lesson in it. I'll get back out there. It is significant. So the mentality, the attitude of the mental toughness is a lot of things that I speak about when I go speak to youth. The mental toughness aspect of it is something you have to be prepared for. So not just financial preparation, not just business preparation, but mentally, how are you prepared for success or for failure? And how do you recover from that? Because there are plenty of people who failed 3, 4, 5 times in business, but they come back with a business success. So you got to think about that.
And I totally agree with you. I look at it like this. Never impossible, and what's in impossible means I'm possible. My dreams are possible. And as long as you have passion, and I think that's what kind of keeps me going. I didn't walk away from a corporate job at 27. So you can add a few more years in that. So very established. I'd spent 18 plus years in a company. Both my husband and I, we have 2 children. So it was all about, this is my passion. Is it making me wake up at night in the middle of the night writing notes, and yes, I think from my perspective, the market is driving. So the customers, the opportunities are driving the direction of where we're going as a startup. So where I thought we would have been when I put this on paper 6 months ago and where it's taking us is totally different direction. And that's a market driven approach. So the market's going to drive who the customers are, where the value is, and then hopefully the success and to get paid. So that's kind of, from my perspective, where I am is ultimately getting paid.
Absolutely.
But of course, spending a lot of capital so far and hoping to get a return.
But go ahead, Christy. I'm sorry.
No. We've just all got so much to share and so many ideas going through our head. There probably isn't enough time to cover them all. You both touched on the fact that you had an idea and you had a passion, and then you took that leap of faith. And you also prefaced it with I know there were other ways to go about doing that, namely that there is that problem solution approach that you just referenced, Seqwana. Could you talk a little bit more about how you took the faith you had in yourself and the opportunity you saw and then married it with more of a formal process, if there was one, to actually determine that problem solution fit? So we'll be right back, and that's what we're going to talk about after the break.
As parents, we carry a whole lot of weight. And with that, we can carry a whole lot of stress. Between the ups and the downs, the highs and the lows, the joy and the growing pains, it's natural for us to put ourselves last. Take 5 when you start to feel like you're losing yourself. You'd be surprised what a difference a few moments can do to make you feel more like yourself again. And when we take better care of ourselves, we're better parents. And when we feel better, the whole family can be alive and well. Get tips to Take 5. Go to aliveandwellstl.com.
Hi, I'm Seqwana Pryor of Prycor Technologies, and thinking entrepreneurially means focus, passion, drive.
Welcome back to Entrepreneurially Thinking. We're talking with Seqwana and Keith, and we really want to take the next couple minutes to talk about how you marry that personal passion and the faith you have in the fact that there's a market out there. I know a lot of entrepreneurs, and it really does start with that faith that they have something incredible to bring to the world that the world needs. How have you married that faith with a more formal process of problem solution identification?
So just as Keith stated earlier, you go out, and my first thing was, I'm pretty smart. I'm an engineer. I've got 18 plus years of experience. I've got business background. So really, I felt like just with the technical competencies that I had and developed over those 18 years, I had some type of product. However, I knew nothing about, again, as stated, the entrepreneurial pathway. So really surrounding myself with wonderful mentors, including one that's with us today, Cheryl, the Square One Ignite, which I think Christy is a part of that program.
As she leads that one,
I think she is.
Thank you.
So absolutely bringing those type of programs and bringing that together with someone who has passion, but who has some, in this case, technical competency, but you do need some formal training as well as mentors to help guide a thought process. So I am known for someone who has many ideas. That's what I was getting paid for. And if anyone knows me in my social circles, lots of things I'm always brainstorming. But to systematically take that from a lot to a few to a focus, I think it's very important to have formal training such as the Seqwana Ignite, as well as mentors who have experience in the area that you're pursuing, in this case, entrepreneurship.
I think that's really cool what you just said, having lots of ideas. Keith, you mentioned that too, because I think the hallmark of being an entrepreneur is you could be laying in bed at night and you go, oh, wow, there's a great opportunity because you see a need. But going back to what you said, helping to funnel that and understand where that need might fit in your business plan is, I think, crucial. You mentioned something else too, Seqwana. I'm going to let you go ahead, Keith, and answer that question before I move on.
What question is that? So, I mean, the reality of it for me is it's very similar. So you're trying to match up where you have a skill set. And it's almost going to be a duplicate answer. You have a skill set, and initially most entrepreneurs say, hey, I got a talent, I got a skill. It's all about me. And in actuality, it's not about you. It's about the client that's going to receive it. And everything you do needs to speak to how people will convey value in what you're offering.
Yes.
And so just like Seqwana, I said, you know what? I've been working for this company. I know how to do this. Let me see if I can build a business. Instead of saying, what do people out here need? What problem can I solve? And what gives them the most interest and the most willingness to pay for this? And so I'm trying to increase profits. I'm trying to reduce costs for clients. And so with that said, you want them to purchase your products, but you have to have a reason. You got to have a rationale. Exactly. So it's got to be, fear or joy or vanity. It's got to be something that's going to make somebody pay for it.
Right.
And that's really the perspective. That was the big transition from thinking about starting a business and thinking it was all about me and what I could offer to starting a business and learning, you know what? It's not about me at all. It's about the talent I can execute. It's about the technical skills that I have, but it's really about the client. If the client doesn't want to pay for what you're offering, or if you're targeting them improperly, then you're not going to be in business very long.
Marketing versus sales approach, right?
Very,
understanding
very
the need. So you guys both touched on mentoring in some form or fashion. And I think Christy and I both sit at a vantage point where mentoring,
it's a crucial part of the entrepreneurial experience.
Right.
Often, from my experience, because people are looking for a straight path, that step-by-step path to do this. And Keith, you mentioned earlier that it's a turbulent experience being an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. I mean, you can create a plan, and I don't care if it's Bill Gates, I don't care if it's Steve Jobs. If you create a plan to get from point A to point B, and that plan is not somehow altered, you're lying. Because when anybody who has a success story, and I don't claim my story is a success story, but anybody that has a success story will tell you, my plan was to go here, then it zigzagged and it took me here. But the ability to be able to transition, to adapt, to learn, to grow, to listen is a core group of characteristics about being an entrepreneur.
And how did that mentor piece factor into that?
Yeah, again, it's a plan or is it a maze? And when you're going through a maze or you're in this journey, there are going to be experiences, people that are going to be a part of that maze, that experience. And hopefully those will be people who have some knowledge base. And I know the mentoring, formal and informal, having, again, both you and Cheryl in the programs and just the feedback informally. I think I even got a call or maybe an email. It was late the other night. I didn't expect Christy to be replying to this email that I'm thinking about a particular program and some particular grants. And there it is. Christy popped back a resource that also would be a great resource in this mentor space, in this entrepreneurial space to help me understand how to navigate through a particular proposal that I was thinking about. So that was kind of informal, but through a formal program like Seqwana Ignite, got to meet Christy. Christy and Square Ignite through Cheryl, and all of the mentoring Cheryl's been giving us. It's just kind of how it all works. So it's very, very critical. No matter how smart you think you are, what you think your product is, you really need people who can not only provide feedback, but can help redirect and help you focus.
And I think one of the things that Christy and I have talked about too is that if you out there are very interested in testing the waters here in the entrepreneurial space, what a great way. If you're sitting in corporate America and you're thinking, I don't have that idea yet, but I'd like to contribute in a different way. Mentoring is an absolute excellent way to get involved in the whole ecosystem. It allows you to, one, help other people out from your knowledge, your experience, and help them create their vision. But I think it also allows you to expand your own vision as to what the possibilities could be if this is something that you want to get into.
Most definitely. And thank you, Seqwana, for mentioning Square One. We have that Ignite program and as well as our boot camp, and we rely heavily on subject matter experts. So nobody wants to listen to me talk for 10 weeks, which is what our boot camp is. So I count on 30 to 50 subject matter experts to come in and share what they know, what they get paid to do every single day to the cohort, so that as these businesses progress, they know who to go to. So mentoring, subject matter expert, advisor, and frankly, a professional service provider. Ultimately, all these entrepreneurs, as they grow, need to intersect with a tremendous number of individuals that have expertise. And
Absolutely.
So in that way, I think it kind of cracks open what might be the underground that Seqwana mentioned and brings the light of day into something where there's just so much more room in the tent than you might think at first blush.
And I think both of you all bring something to the table that most entrepreneurs, if you are somebody that's willing to listen and be coachable, and mentors who are willing to be honest and help build that business, that's a great marriage with young entrepreneurs.
Powerful.
Absolutely.
So we always want to create a pathway for our listeners to explore entrepreneurship and innovation. And that means, what kind of takeaways are they going to have at the end of each podcast? What are we going to leave them with? What has been your experience as African-American entrepreneurs, particularly with going out on that leap of faith? Because we don't all have the same access to resources in our community. Not all entrepreneurship is created equal.
Right.
So as we try to close those gaps, is there something about your experience that you can share to help us understand better a particular challenge or strategy for overcoming a particular barrier?
Yes. So for me, again, I've just been in a space for the last 6-8 months. I really don't think I would have been able to be successful at all without the resources and the connections with the whole BioSTL, BioGenerator, this whole Cortex infrastructure and network. I do honestly believe that there is an underground for those who don't look like me, and that they don't have to go through this formal kind of networking and formal mentoring, that they have the resources, the access, and people are very willing to take that risk. As an African-American female, I feel like I have had to walk in the door, of course, with my Dr. Seqwana Pryor on my shoulder to hopefully even to get a conversation going. There have been white males who said to me, I've already linked you in. I've already looked you up. So that validation, even before I came into the room, is what I have to have. While others might be just a high school white Caucasian male who might just be able to get $100,000 right off the bat because someone just believes in him, or his connections might just say, we're going to take that risk. I definitely think it's harder. I definitely think we need these formal programs, formal networks, formal communities like what we have here in the district. And frankly, without it, I don't think I would have been able to be as successful as I have to date. Certainly would not already have a lab right here in the CIC at CET building without that full network and support. And certainly don't think Prycor would be where it is in such a short period of time without the formal. Very different, I'm sure, from my counterparts.
Well, thank you for your candor.
Yes.
Because I think acknowledging where the real gaps exist and the lengths we still have to go to make sure that this entrepreneurial pathway to prosperity is available for everyone.
And that's our mission for both of our organizations. So it's good to hear that the impact that we have, that the work that we're doing in the community is not in vain. So that's great to hear. Keith, I know you.
Well, the comment is definitely similar. There's always a challenge. I went to undergrad in Atlanta, which there's a lot of support and a lot of infrastructure for African American businesses. And it was set up by African Americans who wanted to see other African Americans successful and African Americans that were in politics to make the playing ground fair and even. You know, it's not these specialized giveaways. They're actually programs to help companies be successful, and they don't just give business out. You still have to earn business.
Absolutely.
So moving back to St. Louis, I went to graduate school here, and, you know, there were, you know, my class in WashU, at the MBA program, there was 2 African American males, and one moved back to the South because he had a leadership position with a Fortune 500 company. He said, you know what, I'm going to move back to Carolinas. But my point in saying all this is that as a nation, but also specifically as a St. Louis region, there's still a lot of duality. There's still a lot of polarization. And I think that increases the success of business in the region as we start to bridge those gaps, you know. And so the reality of it is bridging those gaps, it helps the entire region. And we still have these different pockets of kind of preferential treatment because they have these relationships that go back through St. Louis.
It's historical.
And it's historical, you know, and it becomes a challenge for any business, especially African American owned businesses that, you know, want to grow, want to strive. But again, they're going to be obstacles. And so I don't feel like I've gotten a lot of help in general from, you know, anybody, but I'm thankful for the help that I've gotten and for the clients that I've been able to land and the people who have allowed and advised me as a young entrepreneur at 27 and now as 41, people who still want to lend advice or even value what I've learned. So yeah, it is still a very huge gap in how people get equitable resources and support. But we know that, we see that, and we continue to strive and work towards success despite that, or in spite that. So the idea is that you don't let anything stop you.
Absolutely.
You know, and you continue to go and you do what you can. And if your business caters to customers that want the product and you're solving a real problem, you're probably going to be in business.
Absolutely. And I think what you guys are doing right now is also so very special. You're giving back, which I think is key for all of our community to think about, because as we all know, you know, inclusion does not mean exclusion. What it does mean is we want everyone to rise, you know, to be successful. And we can't have half of our community being successful while the other half is not.
That's wonderful. And I think that giving back piece is incredibly important as well. And I also want to make sure that people can find these 2 incredible entrepreneurs and patronize their businesses and be part of their success. So if Seqwana and Keith can just tell us where we can find more, where we can keep tabs on you, that would be perfect.
Yeah, you can find us at www.prycortechnologies.com.
Excellent.
You can find me at TurnGroup, TurnGroup.com. Keith at TurnGroup.com is my email address, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions about our business.
Absolutely. And these guys are going to be involved in programming that we do moving forward, because we're going to make sure you're involved in programming that we do.
Absolutely. Featuring folks who are doing it, living it. That's a really important thing. We need to see ourselves in the community as women and as minorities. It's really important that we talk about what's possible and actually show what's possible.
Absolutely.
And so I know we're all blessed to have you as part of the community and for you to take out that time to give back and be part of paying it forward. So thank you for being with us today.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much.
This was fun.
Absolutely. Well, you'll have to come back.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Don't forget to look for us on all your favorite digital platforms and follow us so that you can stay in on the entrepreneurially thinking conversation.
Changing the way you view new ventures, igniting your thinking about entrepreneurship, It's entrepreneurially thinking. Get connected and discover more. Visit our website for show notes, resources, information about our guests, upcoming events, and of course, all your favorite episodes. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them for us in the comment sections, and be sure to leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes. The best way to show love is to share. Let everybody know that you're thinking entrepreneurially. So visit our website, entrepreneuriallythinking.com. #ETHINKSTL. Entrepreneurially Thinking is another positive production of RareGem Productions. Thanks for listening.